My name is Rose C. Gonzalez, and I am 41 years old. My husband laughed. Ha, this is my second family now. And while I stood there completely heartbroken, I heard my own voice say, "Congratulations," like my body was trying to keep me upright by turning shock into politeness. I didn't know yet that second place would come with federal charges. I just knew something in my life had cracked so cleanly it sounded like glass. 3 months ago, I found out the woman I'd been married to for 11 years, Claire, 39, had been living a complete double life for the past 4 years. We have 2 kids together. Lily is 9 and Jacob is 7, and my entire world is structured around routine because that's what keeps children safe. I'm a teacher, which means summers off, which means I'm with them constantly when school is out. So when I say I still don't understand how she managed it, I mean it in the most literal, practical way. How do you run 2 households, raise 4 kids, and sleep at night without cracking? It started with something so small it felt stupid to even notice. Claire's phone died one afternoon, and she asked to use mine to call a work friend about covering her shift. She was a pharmaceutical sales rep, at least that's what I thought, and she traveled a lot for work, or so I thought. She dialed the number from memory, pacing the kitchen, talking fast, like she always did when she was in work mode. When she handed my phone back, she forgot to close out the recent calls. I looked down and saw the contact sitting there like a warning sign. Tristan husband, with a heart emoji. My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my knees. At first my brain tried to rescue me. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a weird nickname for a coworker. Maybe it was something harmless that looked terrible because I was tired. But there's a specific kind of dread that hits you when your body knows the truth before your mind is ready to say it out loud. I didn't confront her immediately. That's not who I am. I've always been the person who gives people the benefit of the doubt even when they haven't earned it. I checked her social media from my account. Nothing suspicious. Family photos with us. Comments from friends. Her feed looked normal, almost boring. That should have reassured me. Instead, it felt staged, like a set that stays perfect because nobody actually lives there. Then I remembered something she mentioned a few years back. She said she was making a LinkedIn for networking. I'd never thought about it again because in our marriage, networking was just one of those adult words that meant, "Don't ask questions, I'm busy." So I searched her name. 2 profiles popped up. One was Claire Fitzgerald, my last name, the woman I thought I knew. The other was Claire Morrison, her maiden name. The Morrison profile listed her as a regional sales director living in a city 4 hours away. Relationship status, married. The profile picture made my hands go cold. It was Claire in a wedding dress I had never seen, standing next to a man who wasn't me. I sat at my desk staring at that photo until my eyes burned. Then I did what people do when their reality collapses. I started digging for anything that could make it make sense. I searched the man's name. Tristan Morrison exists. He owns a construction company. His business website had photos, testimonials, a phone number, a family section with a smiling couple photo that was absolutely Claire. I found property records online, a house deed signed in both their names. The date on it hit me like a slap. 2 months after my 7th anniversary with Claire. She'd been building another life while I was planning anniversary dinners and buying birthday gifts for our kids and believing travel meant work. I kept thinking, maybe it's some identity mix-up. Maybe someone stole her photos. Maybe this is a scam using her face. That thought died the moment I found more evidence. Photos of her at a school event in that other city. A community group post tagging Claire as a volunteer mom. A comment from someone calling her an amazing wife. And then my brain finally asked the question I'd been avoiding. How? How was she managing another whole family when I was home with our kids half the year? I hired a private investigator because I needed proof before I did something that would blow up my children's lives. It sounds dramatic, but I needed facts, not fear. I needed something solid enough that when Claire inevitably tried to twist it, I wouldn't question my own sanity. What the PI found was insane. Claire didn't just have a second marriage. She had another identity entirely. Different social security number stolen from someone who supposedly died as a child. Different driver's license. Different documents. The whole thing was built like a stage set, complete with props. And then the schedule made the horror feel even worse because it showed she wasn't sloppy. She was strategic. She traveled for work 3 to 4 days a week. Those days, she was living with Tristan and their 2 kids, twins, age 3. She'd leave Monday morning for sales calls, spend Monday and Wednesday with family number 2, then come home Wednesday night claiming exhaustion from travel. Fridays were her admin days, working from home with us. Every other weekend she had regional meetings, which were actually weekends with them. She had been collecting 2 insurance policies, 2 sets of tax benefits, everything. 2 lives, fully separate. And she walked between them like she was changing outfits. I sat on the information for 2 weeks, documenting everything. I downloaded both LinkedIn profiles. I got copies of property records. I read the PI report until the pages felt sharp. I even drove to Tristan's house one Tuesday and saw her car in the driveway. I took pictures like I was collecting evidence in my own marriage trial. Last Sunday, she was in the kitchen making breakfast, laughing at something on her phone like nothing in the world could touch her. I asked what was funny. She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, Tristan sent me a video of the twins trying to sing happy birthday to his mom," she said casually. "They're at that age where everything's hilarious." She said it like she hadn't just admitted to her actual wife that she had another family. "Who's Tristan?" I asked, playing dumb, because part of me needed to see what lie she'd choose. She froze for half a second, then recovered. "Work colleague," she said smoothly. "His kids are adorable." "Can I see?" I asked. She clutched her phone. "Oh, it's nothing interesting." That was the moment my voice changed. "Claire, who's Tristan?" Her face went through about 10 emotions in a few seconds. Then she did something I will never forget. She laughed. "Ha," she said, like I'd just made a cute observation. "Well, guess the cat's out of the bag. This is my second family now." I stared at her. "Your second family." "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Rose," she said, rolling her eyes. "Lots of people have complicated situations." "Complicated," I repeated. "You're married to another man." "Technically, that marriage isn't fully legal since I used different documents," she said, like she was explaining a parking ticket. "So you committed identity theft and bigamy." "You're overreacting," she said, still smiling. "I love both my families. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just expanded." Expanded, like love was a brand and she'd franchised it. "Claire, this is a federal crime," I said, and my voice was shaking now. "Multiple federal crimes." "Only if someone reports it," she said, eyes bright with entitlement. "And why would you do that? Think of Lily and Jacob. Do you want their mother in prison?" In that moment, I understood something terrifying. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She genuinely thought she had bargaining power because she could weaponize motherhood. "Does Tristan know about us?" I asked. "Of course not," she said. "He thinks I'm a regional director who travels for work." "So you're lying to both of us." "I'm maintaining 2 households," she said, sighing like she was the victim. "It's exhausting, actually. You could be more appreciative." That was the point where my heartbreak turned into something colder. Not rage, not even hatred, just clarity. I walked out, took the kids to my mother's house, and told Claire we needed space. She sent dozens of texts, calling me closed-minded and accusing me of breaking up our family over nothing. Over nothing. Like my marriage was a minor inconvenience in her larger project of having it all. But I wasn't going to argue with her anymore. I was going to prove it. And then I was going to end it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my mother's kitchen table while Lily and Jacob slept in the spare room, listening to the refrigerator hum and replaying Claire's laugh over and over in my head. It wasn't nervous laughter. It wasn't fear. It was amusement, like she'd finally been recognized for pulling off a clever trick. By morning, the shock had hardened into resolve. I needed to protect my kids, and I needed to do it with facts, not emotion. I spent the next 2 weeks documenting everything. Screenshots of both LinkedIn profiles, copies of the property records, photos I'd taken of her car in Tristan's driveway, the PI's full report with dates, schedules, and identifiers. I kept a timeline because I needed to see it laid out plainly. Monday to Wednesday with them, Wednesday night back with us, Friday admin days, every other weekend, regional meetings. It was meticulous, almost elegant in its cruelty. She'd been collecting 2 insurance policies, 2 sets of tax benefits, and living off the assumption that no one would ever compare notes. I took the kids to my mother's and told Claire we needed space. She responded with dozens of messages, each one a different angle. I was being dramatic. I was overreacting. I was punishing the children. I was breaking up our family over nothing. She told me to think about the optics. She told me to think about forgiveness. She told me to think about how difficult it was for her to keep everyone happy. The entitlement in those texts was almost impressive. She never once asked how I was. I contacted Tristan. I know people say not to. that it's dangerous, that you should let lawyers do the talking. But the man deserved to know. I sent him an email with everything attached: my marriage certificate, family photos spanning 11 years, school pictures of Lily and Jacob, the PI report, the property records, the screenshots. I didn't editorialize. I didn't insult her. I just laid it out and wrote one line at the end. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. He called me within an hour. His voice cracked as soon as he said hello. He thought Claire was his soulmate. They'd been married 4 years. They had twins together. They were trying for another baby. She's at a conference in Denver this week, he said. I closed my eyes. No, I told him gently. She's at home with me. Or she was. I asked her to leave 3 days ago. We compared notes. The lies she told him mirrored the ones she told me, just tailored to the audience. Fake business cards. A fake LinkedIn with fake colleagues who endorsed her skills. She'd built an entire fictional career because it gave her the perfect excuse to be absent on a schedule that served her other life. Tristan was angrier than he was hurt, which surprised me. I'm going to destroy her, he said. Get in line, I told him. We agreed to coordinate. Police reports, annulments, evidence sharing, no private deals, no secret forgiveness. Claire didn't take that well. She showed up at my school during my lunch break, right in front of other teachers. She put on a performance about my mental breakdown, told my colleague Diane that I'd invented a conspiracy theory about her having another husband. Rose has been under a lot of stress, she said softly. I'm worried about her mental health. Diane looked at me, confused, and I felt the floor tilt. I pulled out my phone and showed Diane the photo of Claire in a wedding dress next to Tristan. This conspiracy theory, I said calmly. Claire's mask slipped. That's from a commercial shoot, she snapped. I do modeling sometimes. A commercial shoot where you signed a marriage certificate, I replied. She grabbed my arm hard and whispered that we needed to talk privately. No, I said. We're done talking. She started crying then, the big dramatic tears that used to work. How can you do this to our children, she sobbed. They need their mother. They need a mother who isn't a criminal, I said, and the room went very quiet. That's when she snapped back, accusing me of righteousness, of ingratitude, of not appreciating the 11 years she gave me. You gave me half of 11 years, I said. The other half you gave to Tristan. She ranted about how exhausting it was to maintain both families and how I could be more appreciative. In front of witnesses, she basically confessed. I filed the police report that afternoon. Identity theft, bigamy, fraud. The detective's eyebrows climbed higher with every document. In 20 years, he said, I've never seen anything quite like this. Meanwhile, Tristan hired a forensic accountant. It got worse. Claire had been using the fake identity to take out credit cards, loans, even a car lease, all tied to Tristan's address. She tried everything to wiggle out of it. She went to my mother's house on her weekend with the kids, crying about how I was destroying our family. My mother recorded the entire conversation. Claire, my mom said evenly, you married another man. That's just paperwork, Claire replied. The heart wants what the heart wants. The law wants what the law wants too, dear, my mom said. Then Claire went to Tristan's family. His sister called me, shaken, saying Claire showed up at her job begging her to convince Tristan to drop the charges, claiming she was pregnant and needed support. Plot twist, she wasn't pregnant. Tristan had gotten a vasectomy after the twins. She didn't know because she'd missed that business trip when he had it done. The arrest happened at Tristan's house. She went there to pick up her things, supervised by police, but there was already a warrant. They cuffed her in the driveway. Tristan sent me the doorbell camera footage. She screamed about jealousy and how we couldn't handle a strong woman living life on her terms. Her lawyer contacted mine with a laughable proposal. If I dropped the charges and convinced Tristan to do the same, she'd give me full custody and walk away. My lawyer laughed. She's facing 20-plus years, she said. She doesn't have bargaining power. And then Claire did the one thing no lawyer can fix. She went on Facebook Live for 18 minutes and ranted about how society forces women to fragment themselves and how she was a pioneer of modern relationships. She admitted everything, attacked me and Tristan by name, and called us weak for not appreciating her gift. The prosecutor added witness tampering charges. Her bail was revoked. She spent the night in jail, furious and indignant, still convinced she was the smartest person in the room. By the end of that week, there was no pretending this was a private marital issue. It was federal, it was documented, and it was moving forward without her consent. By the time the federal agent stepped in, the story was no longer about betrayal inside a marriage. It was about math, documents, and laws that don't care how charming you are when you're caught. My husband, Clark, 39, had built 2 lives with the same confidence he used to convince people he was always the smartest person in the room. And when the walls finally closed in, he still believed he could talk his way out. The arrest came faster than I expected. Clark had gone to Tessa's house to collect what he called personal items, supervised by local police, because there was already a temporary protective order in place. What he didn't know was that a warrant had been issued the night before. Federal. Identity theft that crossed state lines, wire fraud, mail fraud, bigamy, tax fraud. The list kept growing as the evidence stacked. They cuffed him in the driveway. Tessa sent me the doorbell footage. Clark screaming about how we were jealous, how we couldn't handle a strong man living life on his terms, how love shouldn't be boxed in by rules written by small people. He was still performing, even as the cuffs clicked shut. His parents put up a $100,000 bond within 48 hours. They mortgaged their house to do it. I remember thinking that enabling doesn't stop just because the stakes get higher. It just gets more expensive. Clark's lawyer called mine immediately, floated a deal like it was a gift. If I dropped my complaint and convinced Tessa to do the same, Clark would agree to full custody and walk away. My lawyer laughed out loud. He's facing 20+ years, she said. He doesn't have leverage. Then Clark did the single worst thing any defendant can do. He went live. 18 minutes on Facebook, unfiltered. He ranted about society forcing men into narrow roles, about monogamy being a prison, about how he was a pioneer of modern relationships. He admitted to everything in the name of philosophy, attacked me and Tessa by name, and called us weak for not appreciating his capacity for love. The prosecutor added witness tampering and public admission to the file. His bail was revoked. He spent the night in jail, still convinced he was misunderstood. The plea deal came quickly after that. 8 years in federal prison, eligibility for parole in 5, forfeiture of all assets obtained through fraud, roughly $200,000. Both marriages annulled, loss of parental rights pending review. At sentencing, Clark showed up in a conservative outfit, trying to look like a suburban dad who made a few bad choices. His lawyer painted him as a man who got in over his head out of love. The prosecutor played the Facebook Live. The judge shook his head. In 30 years on the bench, he said, I've seen a lot of creative criminal enterprises. Yours takes the cake for sheer audacity. Clark stood to speak. No apology. He said he refused to apologize for trying to have it all. The judge added 6 months for lack of remorse. Afterward, the civil suits followed like dominoes. Credit card companies. 2 banks. The woman whose identity Clark stole, very much alive, living abroad. Turns out the PI had been wrong about that detail. The corrections kept coming, each one tightening the net. Clark's parents wrote me a letter apologizing, admitting this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. In college, he'd been engaged to 2 women at once, taking money from both for wedding planning. They paid it back and hushed it up. The pattern had always been there. Clark wrote me from prison asking me to put money in his commissary account because the food was terrible and he had dietary restrictions. The entitlement was almost impressive. I didn't respond. Tessa got one too. She framed hers and hung it in her garage as a reminder to trust her gut. We've become strange friends through all of this. Not close, but aligned. We meet for a beer sometimes and talk about healing like adults who refuse to be managed by someone else's chaos. My kids are doing better. Therapy helped. Lily asked once if her dad was sorry. I told her some people don't know how to be sorry. They only know how to be caught. Jacob accepted that with the quiet logic kids have when you tell them the truth without varnish. I'm dating again, carefully. My first date joke is always the same now. Any other families I should know about? It gets a laugh. It also sets a boundary. Clark taught me something valuable without meaning to. When someone shows you who they are through their actions, believe them. Don't wait for the right words. He showed me who he was the morning he laughed about his second family. No shame, no remorse, just amusement at being discovered. That wasn't a mistake. That was character. Clark's next parole hearing is in 5 years. I won't attend. Tessa won't either. We've moved on. He's a cautionary tale now. A story people don't quite believe until you show them the documents. The second family he was so proud of ended with both families free of him. Turns out first place and second place both win when the competition is a federal crime.